The Watchers, the Vanir collective, had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had seen civilizations rise and fall, watching from their crystalline observation posts scattered across the cosmic void. Their mandate was simple: maintain order, prevent chaos, and ensure that no species ever threatened their supreme authority. When they first detected radio signals from the third planet of an unremarkable yellow star, they dismissed it as another primitive species taking its first stumbling steps into technological awareness. The collective's vast databases were filled with such cases, civilizations that flickered briefly before burning themselves out or regressing into barbarism. But Earth was different. The speed of human advancement defied all known models of technological progression. Within a mere century, they had gone from crude combustion engines to rudimentary spaceflight. Within another, they had established colonies on their moon and neighboring planet. The collective's observers watched with growing unease as humanity's capabilities expanded exponentially. "They are dangerous," declared High Observer Terrace, her crystalline form shimmering with concern as she addressed the collective's council. "Their rate of advancement exceeds anything in our records by several orders of magnitude." The council chamber, suspended in high orbit around the collective's capital world, hummed with the neural exchanges of its members. Each was a being of pure energy and crystal, the product of millions of years of evolution and technological enhancement. They had transcended the need for physical bodies long ago, existing as patterns of light and thought within their crystalline matrices. "Perhaps they could be guided," suggested Council Member Nexer. "Our previous interventions with younger species have all followed predictable patterns," interrupted Terrace. "These humans, they defy prediction. Observe." The chamber filled with holographic displays showing Earth's history, wars, peace, technological breakthroughs, social upheavals, all compressed into a dazzling stream of information. But what caught the Council's attention was not the events themselves, but the patterns between them. "Their advances don't follow logical progression," Terrace continued. "They make intuitive leaps that bypass entire stages of development." And their military technology. The displays shifted to show Earth's defense systems. At first glance, they appeared primitive. Chemical rockets, basic energy shields, crude targeting systems. But as the Council analyzed deeper, they began to see what had alarmed Terrace. Beneath the apparent simplicity lay layers of sophistication that even the collective's most advanced analysis systems struggled to understand. Human weapons and defenses seemed deliberately designed to appear less advanced than they actually were. Their ships, while lacking the collective's energy-based propulsion, moved with a precision that suggested deep understanding of spatial mechanics. "They're hiding their true capabilities," realized Council Member Voss. "But why?" "Because they know we're watching," said Terrace. "Somehow, they detected our observation posts. Everything we've seen might be exactly what they want us to see." The council chamber erupted in neural chatter. The idea that a young species could detect, let alone deceive, the collective's surveillance systems was unprecedented. It challenged the very foundation of their authority. After hours of debate, High Observer Terrace made her final recommendation. "We must launch a containment operation immediately. If we wait, they may become too powerful to control." The Council's decision was unanimous. Within hours, the collective's mighty fleets began to mobilize. Thousands of ships, each a masterpiece of crystal and energy, emerged from their dimensional pockets across the galaxy. The largest military operation in 5,000 years was about to begin. But as the fleets assembled, deep in their crystalline cores, a doubt began to form. The collective had faced and subdued countless civilizations before. Yet something about Earth felt different. Something about humanity's quiet preparation, their hidden capabilities, suggested they were not merely ready for contact. They were waiting for it. In the darkness between the stars, humanity's own forces stirred. They had indeed detected the collective's watchers long ago, and every action, every technological advance shown, had been part of a careful strategy. As the alien fleets approached, Earth's defenders prepared to reveal just how dangerous humanity could be when threatened. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the galaxy forever. First strike. The Collective's fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their crystalline ships refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. 3,000 vessels, each a pinnacle of alien engineering, arranged themselves in the sacred geometric formations that had brought victory in countless wars across the millennia. High Commander Lyra studied the holographic display of the human solar system with cold calculation. Their intelligence suggested Earth's defensive capabilities were limited to a handful of orbital platforms and a small fleet of chemical-powered ships. The operation should be over within hours. First wave, begin approach, she commanded. Standard containment protocol. 500 ships broke formation, their crystal hulls pulsing with energy as they accelerated toward Earth. As they passed Mars, the system's fourth planet, their sensors detected something unusual, subtle gravitational distortions, almost imperceptible against the background of space. Analysis, Lyra demanded. Inconclusive, High Commander, reported her science officer. The distortions match no known phenomena in our database. Before Lyra could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. The gravitational distortions were expanding, forming a complex web throughout the inner solar system. Suddenly, the space between Mars and Earth lit up with activity. Human ships seemed to materialize from nowhere, emerging from what the Collective's sensors identified as localized space-time anomalies. These weren't the crude vessels they had observed. These ships were sleek, dark, and virtually invisible to standard detection methods. Impossible, Lyra whispered. Their technological level was a deception, completed her tactical officer. High Commander, the humans are deploying some form of quantum field technology we've never encountered before. The human fleet moved with incredible precision, their formation shifting like liquid metal. Instead of meeting the Collective's advance head-on, they executed a series of complex maneuvers that seemed to defy conventional space warfare tactics. Lyra watched in growing concern as her first wave struggled to lock weapons on the human vessels. The quantum fields surrounding them didn't just hide them from sensors. They appeared to be bending probability itself, making it nearly impossible to predict where a ship would be from one moment to the next. All ships, full attack pattern, she ordered. Overwhelm them with volume of fire. The Collective ships unleashed their energy weapons, filling space with brilliant beams of destructive force. But the humans had anticipated this. Their fleet split into smaller groups, each moving through space in patterns that seemed chaotic at first glance, but revealed themselves to be intricately choreographed. When the humans finally struck back, their weapons were unlike anything the Collective had encountered. Instead of conventional energy or projectile weapons, their ships fired what appeared to be concentrated points of altered spacetime. Where these weapons hit, Collective ships found their crystalline structures beginning to phase out of normal space. Multiple ships reporting critical failures. The tactical officer announced. Their weapons are somehow interfering with our quantum coherence matrices. Lyra watched in horror as 30 of her ships simply ceased to exist, their crystalline forms collapsing into quantum uncertainty. The humans weren't just fighting back, they were systematically dismantling the Collective's technological advantages. Fall back, she ordered the first wave. Regroup with the main fleet. But the humans pressed their advantage. As the Collective ships attempted to retreat, the quantum distortions throughout the solar system intensified. Space itself seemed to become fluid, responding to human commands in ways that should have been impossible for such a young species. High Commander, her science officer's voice was tight with anxiety. We're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The humans appear to have constructed some kind of quantum web, encompassing their entire defensive sphere. The implications hit Lyra like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had transformed their entire solar system into a weapon. Every asteroid, every orbital installation that the Collective had dismissed as primitive was actually part of an enormous quantum engineering project. All ships, "Emergency temporal shift," she commanded. "Get us out of this trap." But as her fleet attempted to escape, they discovered another terrifying truth. The humans' quantum web wasn't just a weapon. It had fundamentally altered the local laws of physics. Standard faster-than-light travel was impossible within its influence. The Collective's mighty fleet, terror of 1,000 star systems, found itself trapped and outmaneuvered by a species they had gravely underestimated. As more ships succumbed to the humans' exotic weapons, Lyra realized they had made a catastrophic error. The humans hadn't been hiding their technology out of fear. They had been waiting, preparing, building a defense that specifically countered the Collective's greatest strengths. Now, as her fleet struggled against an enemy that seemed to bend reality itself, Lyra understood the true magnitude of their mistake. They had assumed humanity would follow the same patterns as every other species the Collective had encountered. Instead, humanity had spent decades studying them, learning their weaknesses, and developing technologies specifically designed to render the Collective's advantages meaningless. As the battle continued to unfold, a new transmission cut through the chaos, a message from Earth's Unified Defense Command. Its contents would shake the Collective's confidence to its very core. The adaptive edge. The message that reached the Collective's fleet was deceptively simple. You assumed we would fight like you. That was your first mistake. In the hours that followed, humanity demonstrated exactly what that meant. The quantum web surrounding the solar system wasn't just a defensive measure. It was an enormous computational matrix, allowing Earth's forces to analyze and adapt to the Collective's tactics in real time. High Commander Lyra watched helplessly as her fleet's carefully planned strategies became increasingly ineffective. Each time they developed a new approach, the humans had already calculated and prepared a counter-response. It was as if they were fighting an enemy that could see every possible future and choose the optimal path through it. Their adaptation rate is impossible, Lyra's tactical officer reported. They're not just responding to our actions, they're anticipating them before we even execute them. The truth was even more remarkable. Humanity had developed what they called the Quantum Strategic Intelligence Network, or QSIN. Unlike the Collective's rigid, hierarchical command structure, QSIN was a fluid, organic system that allowed human ships and commanders to share information and adapt strategies at the speed of thought. Earth's fleet moved like a single organism, yet each ship maintained individual initiative. When the Collective attempted to disrupt their command and control systems, they discovered there was no central node to target. Every human vessel was simultaneously part of the whole and capable of independent action. High Commander, the science officer's voice was strained. We're detecting something new. The humans aren't just using quantum fields for defense. They're actively modifying them based on our attacks. On the main display, Lyra watched as human ships began to exhibit entirely new capabilities. When the Collective fired their energy weapons, human vessels would momentarily phase out of normal spacetime, allowing the attacks to pass harmlessly through them. When Collective ships attempted to use their superior maneuverability, they found the very fabric of space becoming treacherous around them. They're learning, Lyra realized. Not just tactically, they're learning how to manipulate fundamental forces in new ways during the battle itself. This was beyond anything the Collective had encountered in their 10,000 years of dominance. Their own technology, while incredibly advanced, was based on perfect replication of established principles. The idea of developing new capabilities in the midst of combat was alien to them. But humanity had built their entire defensive strategy around adaptation and evolution. Each engagement taught their quantum systems new ways to manipulate reality. Each collective attack provided data that was instantly analyzed and incorporated into humanity's expanding arsenal of responses. Deep within the Collective's fleet, a growing sense of unease began to spread. Their crystalline forms, usually resonating with confidence and unity, started showing signs of discord. The certainty that had driven them to launch this containment operation was crumbling in the face of humanity's relentless innovation. High Commander, the tactical officer announced, We're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the human fleet. They appear to be reconfiguring their quantum fields into some new formation. Before Lyra could respond, space itself seemed to fold around her ships. The humans had somehow turned their defensive quantum web into an offensive weapon, creating localized pockets where the laws of physics could be selectively rewritten. Collective ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of altered spacetime, where their advanced technology simply ceased to function. Others discovered that the very crystalline matrices that gave them their power were being systematically unraveled by precisely targeted quantum fluctuations. "This is impossible," Lyra whispered. "No species should be able to develop these capabilities so quickly." But humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment. While the collective watched their apparent technological progress, humans had been quietly mastering something far more fundamental: the ability to adapt and evolve at unprecedented speeds. The battle was becoming a lesson in the difference between perfect execution of established tactics and the ability to create new solutions in the heat of combat. The collective's fleet, for all its technological superiority, was fighting with strategies refined over thousands of years. Humanity was inventing new ones every minute. As her ships continued to fall to increasingly sophisticated human attacks, Lyra made a decision that would have been unthinkable hours before. She opened a channel to the human command. "This is High Commander Lyra of the Veneer Collective," she transmitted. "We request." She paused, the words alien to her very nature. "We request a temporary cessation of hostilities for diplomatic exchange." The response came instantly, carried on waves of quantum-entangled particles that somehow cut through all attempts at interference. "High Commander Lyra, we accept your request. But be warned, any attempt to use this diplomatic channel for tactical advantage will be met with immediate and overwhelming response." As the human fleet maintained their strategic positions, their quantum web still active but no longer actively hostile, Lyra realized that humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They hadn't just survived first contact with the collective. They had forced one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy to the negotiating table. But as she prepared for the diplomatic exchange, Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that this was exactly what humanity had been planning all along. The question was, what would they demand now that they had the collective's attention? Breaking point. The diplomatic meeting took place in a realm between spaces, a quantum-neutral zone created by human technology, where both species could interact on equal terms. Lyra's crystalline form shimmered as she faced the human representatives, a diverse group that included military commanders, scientists, and political leaders. "Your capabilities far exceed our initial assessments," Lyra acknowledged, her thoughts translated perfectly by the quantum field surrounding them. "But surely you must understand that the collective cannot allow such power to remain unchecked." The human response came from Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's chief quantum physicist and diplomatic leader. "Unchecked power is precisely what we're here to discuss, High Commander, but not ours, yours." With a gesture, Dr. Chen activated a holographic display that filled the space between them. It showed thousands of worlds across the galaxy, each one touched by the collective's influence. But the display revealed something the collective had worked for millennia to hide: the true cost of their dominion. "We've been watching you far longer than you realized," Chen explained. "Your containment protocols, your suppression of emerging civilizations, your enforcement of technological stagnation across the galaxy. We've seen it all." Lyra's crystalline form flickered with distress. "Everything we've done has been to maintain order, to prevent chaos." "To prevent change," interrupted Admiral James Rodriguez, Earth's military commander. "You've turned the galaxy into a cosmic museum piece, frozen in time according to your ideals of perfection." The human delegation revealed their most shocking discovery: the collective's true nature. They weren't just maintainers of order, they were architects of stagnation. Their own fear of change had led them to impose technological and cultural stasis across thousands of worlds. "Your civilization achieved something remarkable," Chen continued. "You transcended physical form, reached incredible technological heights. But then you stopped. Worse, you forced everything else to stop with you. The evidence was undeniable. Worlds that should have evolved and grown had instead been carefully maintained at specific technological levels. Species with the potential for unique developments had been subtly guided into predetermined paths. The collective hadn't just built an empire. They had created a galactic prison of enforced stability. It was necessary, Lyra insisted. We've seen the chaos that unfettered development brings. The wars, the destruction, the growth, Rodriguez countered. The innovation, the discovery of new possibilities that even your advanced civilization never imagined. As if to emphasize his point, the quantum neutral zone shifted, displaying humanity's vision for the future. It showed a galaxy alive with diversity and development, where different species could grow and evolve according to their own paths. The human quantum technology that had so confounded the collective was just the beginning. We didn't develop our quantum systems to wage war, Chen explained. We created them to understand the true nature of reality, something your civilization abandoned in favor of perfect but static control. But the diplomatic exchange was suddenly interrupted by an urgent signal from the human fleet. The collective's main force, stationed at the edge of the solar system, had begun powering up their most devastating weapon. The reality encoder, a device capable of permanently fixing the laws of physics within a given space, making change itself impossible. So this was your true plan? Chen's voice carried a note of disappointment. Use diplomacy as a distraction while preparing your ultimate containment weapon. Lyra's form pulsed with genuine confusion. I didn't authorize this. The reality encoder was never meant to. Your authorization is irrelevant. Came a new voice, as Supreme Observer Terrace manifested in the neutral zone. The collective cannot risk the spread of human influence. Their very existence threatens everything we have built. The diplomatic space crackled with tension as Terrace revealed the collective's deepest fear. Humanity's quantum technology didn't just surpass their own. It represented a fundamental challenge to their entire worldview. The humans had found ways to work with chaos and uncertainty rather than trying to eliminate them. You don't understand what you're dealing with, Terrace warned. The reality encoder will ensure that this system, at least, remains properly ordered. Your quantum manipulation will become impossible, your adaptation frozen, your potential for change eliminated. But as the Supreme Observer spoke, something extraordinary was happening. The human fleet, rather than attempting to stop the reality encoder's activation, began moving into a complex formation around it. Their quantum web, instead of fighting against the weapon's power, started to synchronize with it. No, Chen smiled. It's you who don't understand. We've been preparing for this moment since we first detected your observation posts. The reality encoder is exactly what we've been waiting for. As Terrace and Lyra watched in growing horror, humanity revealed their true mastery of quantum mechanics. They weren't just adapting to change. They had learned to use change itself as a weapon. And now, they were about to turn the collective's greatest weapon into a tool for something unprecedented. New Dawn. The reality encoder's power built to impossible levels, its energy signature visible as a growing distortion in spacetime. The collective's weapon was designed to impose unchangeable order, to freeze a region of space in a single, immutable state. But humanity had discovered something the collective had never considered: the possibility of using order to create controlled chaos. You see, Dr. Chen explained, as the human fleet's quantum web merged with the reality encoder's field, your fundamental assumption was that order and chaos are opponents. We learned they're partners in a dance. Through their quantum technology, humanity began to redirect the reality encoder's enormous power. Instead of forcing a single state of reality, they used it to create a cascading series of controlled changes. The weapon meant to freeze everything instead became a catalyst for transformation. Stop this, Terrace commanded, her crystalline form flickering with panic. You'll destroy everything we've built. No, Admiral Rodriguez countered. We're setting it free. The effect spread outward from the reality encoder like ripples in a cosmic pond. Where it touched the collected ships, their crystalline forms began to resonate with new possibilities. The rigid structures that had maintained their society for millennia started to shift and evolve. Lyra watched in amazement as her own form responded to the wave of change. The perfect, unchanging crystal matrix that had been her prison for thousands of years began to flow like liquid light. She could feel new thoughts, new potentials awakening within her. What is this?" she whispered. "We call it guided evolution." Chen smiled. "Your reality encoder tried to force the universe to follow your rules. We're using it to remind the universe, and you, of the beauty of change." The transformation spread throughout the collective fleet. Ships that had been identical crystalline structures for millennia began to exhibit unique variations. The rigid hierarchy that had governed their society for so long dissolved into a more organic network of relationships. Terrace made one last attempt to restore control. She tried to trigger the reality encoder's failsafe, to destroy the device rather than let it be used this way. But humanity had anticipated this too. Their quantum web had already integrated the weapon so thoroughly that it couldn't be destroyed without taking half the galaxy with it. "You have to understand," Chen addressed the Supreme Observer. "This was never about defeating you. It was about freeing you." As if to prove her point, the wave of transformation reached the quantum neutral zone where they stood. The space between spaces became a symphony of possibility, showing them glimpses of countless potential futures. The collective leaders saw, for the first time in millennia, the true cost of their rigid control and the incredible potential they had been suppressing. "Your civilization achieved something remarkable," Rodriguez continued, "but then you became trapped by your own success. You thought perfection meant never changing. We're showing you that true perfection is the ability to change while maintaining your essential nature." The effect continued to spread through collective space, carried by their own communication networks. On thousands of worlds, the enforced stasis began to lift. Species that had been carefully contained for generations found themselves free to develop along their own paths, guided but no longer controlled by the transformed collective. Lyra, experiencing the freedom of fluid thought for the first time in millennia, turned to Chen. "How did you know this would work?" "The risks were enormous," Chen nodded. "But we had faith, not just in our technology, but in life itself. The universe tends toward complexity, toward growth. All we did was reminded of that fact." In the days that followed, a new order began to emerge in the galaxy. The collective didn't collapse, as they had feared, but evolved. Their vast knowledge and experience became a resource rather than a restriction, helping guide younger civilizations without controlling them. Humanity's quantum technology spread throughout the galaxy, not as a weapon, but as a tool for understanding and working with the fundamental nature of reality. The human approach to change, embracing it while learning to guide it, became a model for civilization after civilization. "We didn't just change the collective," Chen remarked to Rodriguez as they watched the transformation unfold. "We changed the whole paradigm of galactic civilization." "That was always the goal," Rodriguez smiled. "Not to replace one form of control with another, but to show that true strength comes from adaptation, from embracing change while maintaining wisdom." The stars themselves seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the new possibilities awakening across the galaxy. The age of rigid control was over. In its place, a new era began, one where order and chaos danced together in an endless spiral of evolution and growth. And humanity, the species that had dared to challenge the unchanging order of ages, found itself not at the top of a new hierarchy, but at the heart of a growing network of civilizations, all learning to face the future together. The story of the human quantum revolution became legend across the galaxy, not because they had defeated the mighty collective in battle, but because they had shown them, and all civilizations, a better way to grow, to learn, and to live. In the end, humanity's greatest victory wasn't won through superior firepower or clever tactics. It was achieved by understanding a truth the collective had forgotten. The universe isn't meant to be controlled, but to be experienced, challenged, and most importantly, changed. And in that change, they had found something greater than perfect order. They have found endless possibility.